Mic check 1 2. You sure the mic working? I bet, cause I don't want to mess up now. On Barr+Friends, we keep it authentic, funny, and inspirational. Welcome to the episode. Oh, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, do anything you want to just support us. And let's just get into this. Ah, man, I love this.
Joining me on today is a man of God, leader, mentor, author, entrepreneur, speaker. Yeah, I'm going to say it, and I told him this, fashion icon.
Yeah.
Otis D Gore, how are you, sir?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm blessed. Thank you, my friend. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm blessed. I cannot complain. From what I sense about you, you seem to be, or you try to be, a man of integrity, and character. Who instilled those traits into you?
My mom. My
Okay.
mom, God rest her soul, she passed away a few years ago, 2022. And it was me and my two brothers and my sister. And she always would tell us, blood thicker than water. You got to take care of each other, no matter what's going on. Even if the other one is wrong and out in the surface, protect them. And then you deal with it behind.
What was one experience that stood out to you when your mother was living on this earth? Like, what's one experience that you will never forget?
So I remember when my mother said, because I grew up in the Bronx, right? And there was a place in this on Porter Road called Gino's, and she know I love to go to Gino's, but she can't afford to take me. So she told me, if you pass your next grade, I take you to Gino's for lunch.
Mhm.
Fine. So that was my motivation. I passed my grade, and what I noticed when she took me there, she let me order what I want. But as I was eating, I was looking at it. She stood there and was just watching me. And I said, Mom, you're not gonna get something to eat? And she said, No, baby, I already ate something. But then I realized as I got older, she only had enough money just for me that day. Yeah, because she told me that later. And I was like, I always wonder why you didn't eat. She goes, I only had enough money just for you. But because you earned it, I wanted you to have your time. I was like, what? So when me and my brothers got older, and we grown up and we done pretty good in our lives. My mother lived, the last place she lived was Atlanta with my sister. And every time we went to see her, we said, Mom, your money's no good. Everywhere we took her, we didn't allow her to spend no money, ever. And even when she moved from Virginia, and we told her the same thing, Mom, your money's no good. She used to try to pay for things, but we wouldn't allow it.
As a son, like, listen, we grown. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? If I can be able to afford dates and to pay for the latest iPhone and,
right,
be able to take care of myself, be all decked out and swagged out, I
right.
can at least, what I'm saying, go home
Yeah,
and bless my mom with whatever she needs. And that's
exactly.
something that I always have lived by, is to be a man that takes care of his family,
Yeah.
man. And I salute that, man. I do. That's what's up.
Thank you so much. And and you and I seem to be cut from the same cloth. It's like, my mom, there was nothing that she couldn't get from me or my two brothers or my sisters. Like, she was watching, and the funny thing about it was she didn't even want it. She didn't want to be fussed over and stuff like that. She wanted us to live our lives. She just wanted us to do well. That's all she wanted. She just wanted us to be good people. And hopefully, that we accommodated her on that regard. But I was trying to, I started writing a book around the time that she was sick. So I was trying to hopefully get it out before she can, but she passed in 2022, so that kind of like took me off track. I didn't write for a while. And then I had to build myself back up to do it. You know what's odd, Mr. Barr, is sometimes I don't know if my brothers do, but I hear my mother's voice. I'm gonna give an example. I'm a real estate broker, right? So
Right.
I was going to show this co-op over in a condo over in Parkchester. You know what Parkchester is?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so it's tight to park over there. So I was double parked waiting for the client, right? And then the car that I was double parking, that blocking in, the guy came downstairs and I said, okay, no problem. So I moved up so he can go out. And when he
Okay.
pulled out, another car pulled in. So you know how that goes.
Right.
So I'm thinking, whoa, dude. So I got out of the car and I said, "Excuse me, sir." I pulled up and he goes, "No, you wasn't trying to park there." I said, "I moved up." So, I was getting a little combative,
Right.
right? And as I'm doing that, I'm looking at him. He was an older gentleman. He had like a maintenance outfit on. He had his lunchbox, his hat. So I'm thinking, this guy might be coming from work, right? So then I heard my mother's voice. I mean, I'm telling you, all I heard her say was, "Boy, what you doing?" Just like that. And I stopped and I looked around. And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, where you coming from?" He said, "I'm coming from work." I said, "What time you get up?" He said, "I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30. So it's hard to find parking." I said, "You got to go to work tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." Then I was like, "My apologies. You can have the space." Yep. I let him have the space. And he looked at me like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Are you coming back out tonight?" "No." I said, "Good, because I'm going to block you in while I go upstairs and show the apartment." I just let him take it. Because right then and there, I said, you know what? What am I doing?
It ain't worth it.
It ain't worth it. Exactly. I just said, you can have it. Don't worry. But if it was you, Mr. Barr, you would have reacted like, yo, right?
For real.
What are you doing? I just said, I just let it slide because I heard her say, "Boy, what you doing?" Just like that. And I looked around like, oh, okay. And then I just plumbed right down. It brought me all the way back down and I let him just have the spot.
The audacity of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Have you overcame doubt?
Yes, 2010, right? Um, I was a real estate broker, which I still am.
Right.
But I started 2008, right? I was working in Long Island in corporate America. I had a cushy job, right? And
Yeah.
however, as you go along in corporate America, you want to go up the ladder. So there was a couple of opportunities that I felt that I was right for, that I applied for, I interviewed for, but I didn't get it. So as it happened more and more, I started to realize maybe this is as far as I'm going to go here. So I started thinking about other things, right? And I've always was intrigued with real estate anyway, right? So I
Mhm.
had a couple of reps that I was managing there who were doing it on the weekend. I used to hear them talk about how hard it is and blah, blah, blah. So I said, that might be a challenge, right? So as I was probing them, everybody had something negative to say about it. So all I would tell them was, all you need to do is transfer what we teach you here about ABCs always be closing, and you just transfer that to selling a property. It shouldn't be that difficult. It's just a different product, right? And they was like, "Oh, you don't know. You would never do it, blah, blah, blah." So then I was like, "Oh, you don't think I'll do it?" And that kind of sparked it. So again, I say I don't tell nobody what I'm doing. So I quietly started researching the license. I started going to the classes, and as I'm going to the classes, I would just probe them. I wouldn't tell them I was going. I would just ask them, "So what do you guys do in this situation?" Just to see what they would tell me. And I was like,
Right.
"Okay." So I quietly got my license, passed the class, passed the state test, passed the school test, did everything, got all the hours in, and then I was as I was at the job, as I realized that I wasn't gonna go as far as I was gonna go at this particular company, you would come in the morning, you take a 15-minute break, then you would take your lunch for an hour, then you would take a 15-minute break in the afternoon. So prior to me getting my license, I never took breaks. I took a half-hour lunch. I was just that dedicated. So once I got the license and put into my mind, I'm gonna do this, I would take my 15-minute break. I would take the hour lunch. I would just started just mentally not being there. So the doubt comes in when I decided to truly say, if I'm going to really make this a career, I need to really be all in. So I need to take the chance. I need to step out on faith, right? Because I heard this quote back then and it stuck with me. It only had this, sometimes you got to hear things once and it's just there. You're like, wow. So the quote said, you could either die leaping in fear or constantly stand on the edge and wonder what could have been.
Woo!
So I heard that and I was like, I was on my desk and I was like, I'm leaving. I said, I'm leaving, right? So when I put my resignation in, I was leaving. I was putting on a good face, but fear and
Mm.
doubt was all over me. But I wouldn't let no one see me sweat. So when I left, I said, I got a net under me right now. But if I leave, that net opens up. So I take it as if I'm hanging on a branch or if I'm hanging on a bar, And if I'm how long can I hold on? Because at this point, if I would have fell, if I was a trapeze artist, I would have fell, I would have bounced back up, I would have caught it again. So that right there does not that enables me to not push harder. But now with the net going, if I fall, I'm falling into the abyss. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I'm just going. I just fell. So that really kept me going to hold on. And that doubt when I would show a good face in front of people, they was like, so what's going on? Oh, I'm cool. I'm glad. I'm so happy. I'm pushing. I'm pushing. As soon as the door closed, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do?
Right,
That was
right,
a
right,
lot of doubt and a lot of fear because my bank account was going like this, dude. So,
right.
when the money goes low, you start to get stressed.
For real.
I was like, I would sure love some of that Japanese food, but you know what? I think I'm just gonna make you some rice at home.
Back, bro.
What? Oh my God. You start to think, oh man, you know? I always tell people, when you broke, you become like the best cook in the world.
Yes,
Because you're cooking
yes.
at home, you know? So that was that I had to overcome that because I had to think to myself, I need to be able to to replace my salary and then expand on that. That's what I had to do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which I wound up doing. Because fear is a few things, right? In the book I wrote, fear is a few things. Fear could be three things. One, it could be forget everything and run. That's fear.
Hmm.
Forget everything and run. It could be false existence appearing real. That's also fear. And the last one, right? Forget everything and rise. So meaning, you know, I did a training the other day, right? And I don't know why this
Hmm.
came to me. So I don't know if anybody said it or not, but we were talking about taking advantage of the moment, seize the moment, carpe diem. We was talking about that because they asked me about the book, right? And so I told
Hmm.
them that listen, whether you ready or you're not ready, when the moment comes, you got to seize the moment. You got to rise to the occasion, right? And so one of the agents asked me, she said, "Well, how do I know if I can rise to the occasion?" I said, "Well, you got to do four things if you want to rise to the occasion." And I don't know, Christian, I was just talking. Sometimes when I'm doing a speech, I just talk and stuff just comes. So
Yeah.
so I told them, I said, you got to do four things if you want to rise to the occasion. You got to go rise. You got to go RISE. You got to take the risk. That's the R. You got to ignite the action. Take action. That's the I. You got to sacrifice. That's the S. And then once you're ready to risk, ignite, and sacrifice, the only thing you can do before you rise is you have to elevate. And when you elevate, you rise.
Say that one more time. I don't think they heard
Look
you.
at the face. Yo, he's a funny guy. As I'm listening to you speak, Christian, I could tell that you are anointed. You have that anointed sound. And I was talking to my brother about this because I don't know if I should say his name, right? We were talking about R.
Right.
Kelly, right? So,
Uh-oh.
oh, no, 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 no. We were talking about the music, just the music, right?
The
Because
music. Okay. Okay.
yeah, we had a discussion about, when they used to do the verses back in the day, verses.
Yes.
So we were saying who could go against R. Kelly, right? I said nobody. He's the king of R&B, not even Usher, right? The catalog. So there's a song that R. Kelly has called "Trade in My Life" from 1996. It's a gospel
Okay.
song. "Trade in My Life,"
Okay.
right? And I told my brother because I used to be into music, so I hear music differently than a lot of people. Than someone who's in the music business, if they're A&R, they hear it differently. So a lot of people when they listen to music or listen to the radio or whatever, they listen to what's coming out of the radio. They listen to what's coming out to them. But when you want to deep into a song, you got to listen to what's actually going on inside the song, right? So
Wow.
that's not just the instruments, the hi-hat and the drum, but the vocals, the background, everything, right? So we were talking about that song, "Trade in My Life." And my brother was like, "Oh, that song is great. He really put us all into it." I said, "No, no, no." I said, "If you really listen to his vocals on that song, if you go back and listen, R. Kelly he wasn't anointed. So even though he put whatever he had into the song, it didn't make me feel the spirit. It didn't make me give my goosebumps. Like if I listen to an actual gospel singer and you listen
Right.
to when their voice, when they hit certain notes, your head stand up. You're like, oh, okay. Like, I listen to like, the Commission or the Winans or, or
Right.
anyone, Marvin Sapp. Marvin Sapp makes me go, okay, I, I felt it.
Yes.
I could feel it. Like when he's going into his thing, right? He didn't make me feel that way because he really is not deep in that at that point.
Okay.
If
Okay.
you
I'm
if you go
following.
back if you go back and listen to the song "Trade in My Life," he's singing the song, he's doing it, but he's not. He doesn't make you go, oh, like okay, I'm ready to, I'm inspired. That kind of thing. It's a huge difference. Because somebody when they introduce me, sometimes they'll say motivational speaker, right? I tell them, don't introduce me as a motivational, introduce me as an inspirational speaker. Because when you are motivated, a motivation is that now situation right now at that moment. I'm motivated. If I'm fired up, let's go. Now, what am I going to do after that? After that feeling passed,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So if I'm inspired, if I'm going to inspire you, that means that whatever I took, I ever said that day, something I might have said, it stuck with you, and that's going to stay with you so that now after you leave the speech you're going to hopefully implement it and stay on a certain path.
Right.
you know
Yes.
that's what an inspiration does, right?
Mm.
It's a difference. It's a big difference. One of the main things that inspired me to start thinking about speaking was Les Brown. You heard of Les Brown?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So Les Brown in the 90s, right? This is when I don't know if you remember, but you're probably younger than me, but he's remarried to Gladys Knight. Anyway,
Right.
did you know that?
Oh, no, I had no idea.
Yeah, he was married last night, but he was coming up, and he was like, and he's the only like I used to listen to like Tony Robbins, and I was like, okay,
Yeah. Same.
yeah, like and they used to talk like so. I'm like, I'm not feeling it, but Les Brown really made me feel it, right? And he said
Right.
something. He said, when you fall down, you look up, you can see the ceiling, you can get up. A setback is a point for a comeback. And then he said something about what his high school teacher said. His high school teacher told him. He said, I can't learn because, I was diagnosed mentally retarded, and the high school teacher told him, don't ever say that again. He said, never let someone else's opinion of you define your reality. And when he said that, I was like, whoop. That's when I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I heard that back in the 90s, and I still remember that. Never let anyone's opinion of you define your reality. Absolutely not. So my book is filled with its stories. It's quotes. Anybody that I put a quote in there, I gave them the credit. I'm not taking it for mine. If it's a good quote, I'll say like Les Brown said once, boom, 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 boom. And it's 13 chapters. At the end of every chapter, there are I like to call them limitless points, because to me, for you to open up your mind, you got to be a limit. You got to have a limitless mindset. Not limited, limitless, unlimited, right? So there's an adjective for being limitless, and that adjective is infinite possibilities come to those who believe, right? If you
Mm.
truly believe you can achieve something, it's no possibilities that you can't, because you truly believe it no matter what nobody else says, right? So after every chapter, there are limitless points, like 3 bullet points. Now there's 13 chapters, right? So this is the cover of the book, just so you can
Mhm.
the Audacity of Doubt. Yeah, that's
Yes,
me on the
sir.
cover. It's not Marvin Gaye. No,
Ah.
because I did an open house last weekend, and my client had my book, and he happened to have it like on his dresser. And so one of the clients was like, "Hey, do I know this guy?" I said, "Yeah, you're looking at him." She was like, "Oh, that's you." I said, "Yeah, that's me." She was surprised, and you know what? I didn't. I'm not trying to sell a book to one of the open house guests, but she bought a book. So, I kind of had to like throw that. She was like, "Oh, wow. I wish I can get one now." I was like, "Well, I kind of got some in the car. I'm just saying."
Right.
And she was like, how much is it? I said, "No, I don't want to sell it to you $20.
That's it.
I give you a free bookmark and I'll sign it for you. How about that?"
Man,
Yeah.
that is what. But what has been? I mean, now, how long has the book been out?
Actually, it's still relatively new. The book was actually released. I had a book release August 17th.
Oh, okay, okay.
But
So just
so it
a
kind of
couple months.
feels like it's been longer because I've been doing so much. I've done a lot of podcasts. This is one of my favorite, by the way. I appreciate you, Mr. Barr. Uh,
Appreciate that, man. Thank
and
you.
I've been doing events, book events, at spaces that selling books. I got a couple of
Mhm.
things coming up to go out of town. So I feel like it's been out longer because I meet some people that selling books at the same events I do. Like there's one guy, very very cool guy, and his book is nice. I thought it was new. I said, "Oh, you just came out the book." His book came out in 2021. I was like, "What?" And he's still pushing. Billy Osbrook, yeah. Billy Osbrooks has a book, and his book, Less Than Unstoppable, it came out in 2017. Yeah. So it made me,
Oh,
so I said to myself, you know what? I got a long way to go. So if you see me in like 2030, I got a white beard. What's up, Otis? I got my new book, Audacity. You're going to be like, Otis, uh, I
yo.
interviewed you like 10 years ago, homie. I was like, that was you? Oh, okay.
Since you released the book, what has been your wildest, like, I guess, fan moment?
Well, I'm glad, it's funny. Um, I did the Harlem Book Fair this year, right?
Right.
Down in Harlem, right? It was a very nice event and everything. And there's a lady there that she was 90 years old and she came to my booth and said, I just released my first book, Sonny, and I'm 90. So I was like, wow, 90, it's amazing, right? 90 years old. So I told her, yeah, I said, let me see your book. So I was looking at her book and she said, I don't got no money to buy your book, but I'm ready to do a trade. And I was like, a trade? She said, yeah, you give me yours. She said, you give me your book and I give you my book. So I'm not going to say no. So I was like, sure, no problem, ma'am. She goes, and I want you to sign it. I said, oh, you want a signature too? And I said, are you going to sign my book? She go, oh, my hand, I can't really write. I was like, okay, no problem. So I signed her book. We traded the book, right? And I
Hmm.
don't know if I should even say this on your podcast, right? So she grabbed my wrist and she pulled me close, right? And she goes, Sonny, she says, if she said 40 years ago, you would have been all mine. I was like, oh, okay. I said, 40 years ago? I said, okay. She said it. She said, 40 years ago, you would have been all mine. I was like, oh. I said, oh, I could see. Okay, no problem. What do you say to that, right? 90 years old. So I said, so 40 years ago, you were 50.
Lord.
That's crazy.
Before you released the book, I'm sure, what I'm saying, that, because, I'm sure, the ladies were popping out, what I'm saying, but now that speaker, entrepreneur, author, um, how can I ask this question? Has the rhythm has the rhythm of women been a little bit different after you released this book?
Yeah, it's a bit different, but I will tell you this. What if you want to talk about um people's reactions?
Right.
What what I found out, which was kind of surprising to me, is how many people that I know or that I thought would be in my corner were
Wow.
not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did I knew you were gonna say that?
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
Yeah, certain people who I was like, okay, and I was surprised at the reaction. So that made me so it made me believe that I've always thought that not everybody's for you. I know that, right?
Right.
But I always believe that some people should, I will always be there for. But there was a few people who who to me was just from their reaction, it just kind of made me surprised, like, oh, okay. So I don't know if there's, like I said, there's this book back in the days, the Energy Bus that I read, and it talks about not everybody's on your bus. You're the driver of your bus. Some people got to get off at their stop, and some people could stay on. By the time you get to your destination, how many people are gonna be on that bus? It's like going on the train, and the last stop is 241st, and Woodlawn, the last stop. Who's left?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't normally take the train, right? I haven't taken the train
Hmm.
in years, probably 30 years or so. But I had to take the train recently when I went downtown to do a radio interview on Wall Street, right?
Okay.
And the one thing that always amazed me about that was that when I used to take the train back in the days, everyone had the train. There's something about the city or the pressure or anything. You could see it on your face, right? Stress, whatever. I'm going to work. I want to go home, what have you. Back then, people had newspapers and magazines. Now, people got phones. There were no newspapers, no magazines, no books. Phone. Everybody's on their phone, right? So that changed. But what didn't change was the look on people's face. That's what I noticed. I was looking around and everyone still had the same look, the same stress, the same strain. And as I was coming up from downtown, the same thing that used to happen when I worked downtown back in the late 80s, early 90s, the same thing happened here. Is that all? No, I'm not prejudiced. But after 90, by the time it gets to 96th Street, after 96th Street, there are no more white people on that damn train. If you take the train from all the way downtown, everybody's mixed, everybody's coming up. 96th Street and on up to 103rd, 105th, all you see is just minorities now. So
Yeah, bro.
yeah, so here's what that taught me as I was thinking when I'm sitting there. Because I thought about that. I said, back in the days, after 96th Street, there's no more, there's only a certain demographic. Boom.
Right.
Same thing. So that tells me, wow, the cycle continues. The cycle continues. It's the same thing. And that is not, to me, that is not by design. That is by design. That is not a coincidence. It's the same thing over and over and over. It's like this. So what we have to do, right? One of our community, when you think about the audacity of doubt, right? We have to overcome those emotions because a lot of us are in this box. We only see what's around us. Anything outside of what we believe is on the TV, and now it's on your phone, or this and this and this, right? It's not as prevalent as it was when I was growing up because when I was growing up, I had like Good Times and the Jackson Five and all that, and Sanford and
Right.
Son.
Right.
So, and and everybody, and even if you really look at that, when you look at it as you get older, the first really uppity black family was the Jeffersons. He owned a couple
Right.
of cleaners, but they didn't give him a big house. What they gave him? A high-rise apartment, right? But when you see a rich
Yeah.
other person, they got the big mansion, all that. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
the real first to see the big mansion when you saw Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Even the Cosby Show had a brownstone, which is still good, but and they took a lot of flack because it wasn't a reality of is there really a black doctor and black lawyer living in the same? Yes, we always existed. Yeah. So the narrative has to change, right? This particular book really geared towards the younger generation, the youth, anyone who's feeling with doubt, but it resonates with them because at a certain point in a young person's life, whether you're in grade school, middle school, high school, college, you're very impressionable. You're still deciding, you're not really sure, most of them. You have a lot of doubt, have a lot of fear because you don't want to take the shot because everyone is worried about what everybody else would think. But what the only person that got to worry about who thinks about what is who the person is seeing in the mirror. So when they get up every day and they ask themselves three questions, because I ask myself three questions every single day. I say, who are you, Otis? Where are you going? And who do you want to be? Even if I know who I want to be, I still ask myself the question. Who are you? Where are you going? And who do you want to be? Because the most important thing about being mindful, present, and blessed is that what's ever going on at that moment. Because as soon as that moment is gone, it becomes one thing. It becomes the past. And when you think about the past, the only thing you do when you see the past is that it don't change. It's like a picture. It's gone. So the only thing you could do about that is change your perspective on how you think about it. Because even this podcast, when it's over, right, whatever went on in between, we're going to take from it whatever it was. Then
Right.
we could tell someone, Christian could say, "Oh, I had Otis D Gore on. He had a black hat on. He was fashion icon. He think he's the man, whatever, right?" And yeah, so whatever we take from it, you're gonna express it to somebody else, and I'll express it
Right.
to somebody else. So it's right now when you really think about it, we're even though it's something minute, but as far as the podcast or the interview, there's going to be some sort of a legacy coming out of it. Because the legacy is what people say about you when you're not around, when you're no longer here, right?
Bruh.
They're going to say something. What would they say about Christian Barr if it ended today?